Hello, everybody. We have Dhanashree Bhatkal with us. She's a financial freedom coach. She's the founder at A Money Tree. She's an author, angel investor, and an accidental millionaire. So we have a lot to know from her, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So welcome, Dhanashree. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shridhar. And I'm delighted to be here. And I hope we can have a conversation that is going to, open up something for the listeners.
Yeah. I actually want to begin with the accidental millionaire part. So tell me, how did you become an accidental millionaire? Because many people would want to be.
Okay, I think that is the part most people want to begin with whenever I talk.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think, like I mentioned in the book, one of the, I don't come from a space of rags to riches. I don't have a rags to riches story. And that becomes the most popular romanticized version of whenever anybody talks about success or becoming wealthy or having built wealth in their life.
कि मैं घर छोड़ के निकल गया था 1,000 रुपए लेके and
हाँ, like 1,000 रुपए लेके बॉम्बे में आए थे.
हाँ.
तो firstly तो I was born in Bombay, कहीं से आए नहीं थे, and then I was born into a moderate middle class family. But by the time I was in my teens, why I call myself an accidental millionaire? Before I could do anything for it, my parents actually, I feel, were a very, very powerful combination of both the left and the right brain side that I talk about in the book. So my father was a finance professional. He's now kind of semi-retired, but he is a finance professional, and he was the one kind of raking the mullah, so to say. But my mother has always been an extremely powerful manifest. I think she's the one who's driven a lot of things that came into our lives, the good things. So by the time I was in my teens, that combination had worked so powerfully that we had moved from being an average, moderate, middle class family to actually becoming, at that time, I would call us reluctant millionaires. We didn't know what to do, sort of stuff. So I saw that in my life really early. And my journey from there on to now, which I call my journey from accident to intention, actually is about looking back and realizing that the wealth work or the money work doesn't have to be done only by people who have a rags to riches story. It's not only their journey.
Of course.
Everyone, all of us have things.
Like wherever you start, you can just keep growing from there. Like
absolutely.
You don't choose your starting point.
Yeah, there are always changes to make, no matter where you are at.
Yeah.
So my accidental millionaire journey is because of my parents, largely, because they made it happen somehow. Perhaps they should have co-authored the book, but I'm writing it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure उनके insights आपने book में डाली दिए होंगे. So
of course, yes.
Yeah, right. So, see, this is an area that I've obviously been interested in, because who isn't in financial freedom? But even I come from like a Marwadi family, and there also तुम्हें money का treatment और money का taking care का उसका ideas और उसकी training बचपन से मिल जाती है, like what to spend, what to not to spend. And in fact, our generation was the exception, where we actually went out of our family businesses and did our own things. जैसे me and my cousins, like everybody, like वो या तो कोई MNCs में काम कर रहे हैं, they have their own jobs, corporate life, and like I have started this now. Otherwise, before my generation, it was just like carrying forward the business of the family.
Right.
Like that's how it was. But even then, I still got a lot of training, because I did work for a few years with my family business. So I'm always very interested in that side of the world too. So abhi for me, first let's learn about you right now. So you're doing this full time, or like are you're also involved in any ventures? Like what is your current work profile?
So A Money Tree, which I co-founded in 2010, about 12 years ago, is something where we actually work in business transformation. So that is really our specialization and our area of expertise. So other than the fact that, there are a lot of personal inputs in the book, there is a lot of my professional journey in the book, because I've been a serial entrepreneur since the time I was just out of, I just finished my education, and that's when I started out. After that, I studied simultaneously also. And under A Money Tree, we kind of bring, on the table all our experience of almost 15 plus years of going through the first few failures in business, then the turnaround that we created, then we got acquired. So it was a journey. And
so tell us about that. I want to know actually, maybe a couple of good examples where, yeah.
Okay. So 2001, right? And
Yeah.
I go back to 2001. I had just, I was kind of just out of, I'd say we were all just out of college. Whoever started out, like five, six of us. And we collaborated with Dilip Chabria of DC Designs. I'm sure everybody knows him, and we decided to get a food truck. Okay. So like we wanted to do Meals on Wheels kind of a concept. At that point, I mean, now food trucks are common here, but at that point, we were touted to be the first food truck in India and DC, and we did a massive launch at Phoenix Mills. There was, all of that. So for the next couple of months, business was great. We raked in a lot of revenues. We got a lot of publicity. People were talking about us, and everyone thought we were the next big thing, basically, right? So 12 months fast forward, and the business had tanked. And we realized that the massive problem that we had, given how things work here, was the municipal corporations, the resident associations who were sort of filing complaints, the smaller hawkers who felt we were like kind of a threat to them, so, and it was a whole lot of, permissions renewing ho rahe the, and all,
so like
all
not exactly a problem with you and your customers, it's a problem of the environment.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
That's
the product was good. The strategy seemed fine. The customer relationship was building okay, but there were so many things in the ecosystem that it just collapsed, But it was a very, very big learning for us. I mean, for me personally, we had a lot of the team members just vanish after that. Of course, people lost faith in the project, and so my current co-founder and I were the two people who stuck on and decided we need to do something else. So my first lesson from this failure was that great teams, can actually turn around anything. So it's very important whom you're working with, who is with you. Sometimes we have the wrong teams, and that could also cause issues. The second lesson that I learned from this failure was to be agile. So we started out with a food truck. Had we romanticized that dream so much and not gotten out of that, we would have probably been stuck there trying to get out of it much longer. But when we realized it's not going to work, we used the centralized kitchen and our team and switched the whole model to a B2B. So after that, we got into a space for about the next 4 or 5 years where we were catering on the back end to some of the cafes which had just come up at that time. Like Barista was new, CCD was new. So all of these guys were great with their forte, which was coffees, but they used to outsource their food part.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, we have a kitchen. We know the food is being appreciated. Let's do that. So next 4 or 5 years, we did that. You sort of turned around, and by the time we were like in 2007, 8, we were good enough to get acquired, which is what we did.
Oh.
Then 2 years, we kind of took our thing, and we had so many lessons along the way, because we didn't have mentors, right? So when we started out, we did it like it was like a trial and error for us. Kuch kiya, kuch chala, kuch nahi chala. So we thought, why not put that whole thing together and create an ecosystem where people can come to you and you can actually give them solutions or help them resolve their issues. Because, if you have a destination, you can find a route to it. You just need to be very agile in how you get there. And I think that is where our business transformation service concept was born.
Yeah, I mean, so I think in startup lingo they call it pivot, right? Like you pivot and constantly, like whenever you find out
the lingo is new, but people have been doing it.
Yeah, right? People have been doing it forever. It's just being it's just adapting to like what.
I think it's just the idea that many people, like you come from a Marwadi family, they have that, so it. Or the business to unke, it's in their blood. There are some communities
but to be fair to absolutely honest, like I know even in my family people just who are resistant to change as well, क्योंकि उन्होंने वो historical traditional method देखा है and like वो business में कुछ change नहीं होगा and they just have this confidence, we have seen this for last 30 years, like
इतने साल
चला है तो अब ये नए बच्चे आके हमें क्या बताएंगे, right? Like ये ऐसे थोड़ी
so that's a different kind of problem then.
So it's a huge problem. वो उनका expertise उनको ही it actually restricts them from growing.
And rigidity in that format.
Rigidity. Like even in last just say 3 to 4 years, so I am doing this and plus I have an organization where I have like a team of counselors and हमारे vision के अंदर भी like if I actually chart down how many times I have had to change my vision, like I can feel for the people working with me, because they're like every second week or 1 month later, like he comes and says, "Yo, now no, now we are doing this, now we are doing that." So I'm like, I know, because this is uncharted territory for me. The thing that I'm doing, I have no precedence here, like nobody really guiding me. Okay, this is the path. We are creating new paths.
Correct.
So I really can't say ki I'll whatever I decide today is the best thing. I have to try it. Doesn't work, try something else. Try it, doesn't work, something else. So
And now the world is changing too quickly. Yeah, I mean the your remaining agile has become an all new definition.
All new
because
definition
it's
only.
very short lived. Everything has become very short lived. The whole customer base, no, with COVID, with going digital, a lot of
Yeah.
things have made people want everything quick. So they lose interest very fast. So you've got to keep reinventing yourself constantly.
And I think this is more so in people in the tech space, क्योंकि वहाँ तो technology तो like पूरा behavior का paradigm shift आ गया था. जैसे
It becomes obsolete even before you kind of know.
yeah, like Facebook का famously, like how they realized कि mobile is now gonna get stronger, so they diverted almost all their funding and investment into just mobile, because I think initially till 2008-9 तक सब desktop में ही चल रहा था, but then they realized mobiles are picking up after iPhone, and so they completely like shifted their direction to mobile. And if they had not, they would have lost so much space in the social media, so at least in those initial years. So I mean, just being able to just anticipate ki the change, what change is coming, and really going there is key. So
Yes.
and so you also mentioned that initial times, like when you were working, and there were a lot of things in the ecosystem that did not work out, and there must have been a time like it was probably a very low period. People have left, and nothing new has come up yet. So during that time, could you talk about your psychological space? Like, what were you feeling in those times, and what was keeping you going?
I'm glad actually that I'm going to be talking about this, because one very unique issue that I faced. So one was the team had kind of dissipated, right? So many of them were not there. The staff was obviously getting unnerved, and they were looking at us for answers, and we didn't have any answers at that point. Food truck, it's parked somewhere, and then you have like how people have questions, right? सब ठीक चल रहा है तो पूछे या नहीं पूछे, but लगता है कि कुछ नहीं है तो then they will. So I had like people actually calling and asking me, "Hey, I've not seen it around. I saw that it's just parked in one place. Why?" So you have to answer them where you're not even holding yourself accountable. But the unique problem I had, like I mentioned, was there were a lot of people that felt, "Oh, you are entitled, so it doesn't matter." What is it for you, yaar? I mean, okay, ठीक है, हो गया, थोड़ा पैसा गया, बाप का पैसा गया, the kind of language.
Okay,
So I
yeah.
don't think it matters. No, you can do something else. So basically, that idea that just because I am, according to them, entitled, a failure or a loss should matter less to me compared to somebody who comes from a rags to riches story. We are not talking about the financial hit here. Okay, that could be different. But at all other levels, a failure feels the same way, to anybody, whether you have something in your. So that is something that I felt I was never sort of given that, other than my parents at that point and my co-founder and our very close circles, other than that, by and large, that attitude of people was a little unnerving for me, because
they would not understand the gravity of it for you.
Problems when they feel you're entitled. That was my takeaway from that. And I talk about that in the book, because a lot of people who are entitled face this issue a lot,
Like because of your privilege, you're like, okay, now almost like your negative emotions don't matter that much, because you probably have that money, so your bad experiences, they must not be that bad, right? Because
that's what people presume.
Yeah, that is true. So for you, of course, like this is one part of it, but now for you individually, as like you looked forward, right? So I also want to know what kept you going, like in those times.
I think basically I'm wired for optimism. That's what I feel. I was raised like that. Like I told you, I feel my mother was a very powerful manifester, even at a time when we were like going through financial constraints also. Even at that point when they were going through financial constraints, I was a child, but I've always seen that, there was never a discussion in the house where we felt, "Arey ye nahi chala," yeah, this didn't work out, or, even when you knew on the day that it has not worked out. So I think I was wired very early on. I give a lot of credit to my mother for that. And perhaps the surroundings, maybe I'm built that way. I don't really know, but I bounce back very fast. When it comes to my moods, even on a daily basis. I mean, every business is going to see ups and downs and things, and even personally in life. But that bounce back is something that I feel makes me, even in my life, I'm very agile. I want to find a way to get to my happy space. That is my comfortable space. So I can't stay unhappy or down very long. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that, because of that early wiring, I'm able to find a way out of at least coming back to equilibrium. I don't
I
stay
think this
down.
is something I also relate to very well, because somehow, see, I was like growing up, I was good at academics and in general good at sports also. So like mostly my life was, if I was trying my hand at something, I would get good at it really quickly, right? And I could find myself like in a good space, and you also get compliments and acknowledgement from people around you, your parents.
Right,
So एक
right.
identity का part होता है कि oh, I am a person who can figure this out, right? Like something happens, I'll figure it out. So मेरे को like I also had this belief in myself always that like whatever I do later, like it may take years and years or whatever, but I'll
But
ultimately do
you'll
something.
do it eventually.
So
Yes.
that belief is something that also keeps me going. Okay, this is something that I'll figure out, and also, to be honest, for me, I've always because my dad kind of told us stories of many successful people. So उनकी जर्नी में हमेशा एक पार्ट था where like there was a time where you just they could not figure things out, things were not going well, but then it took a lot of perseverance and it took a lot of learning, and they ultimately figured it out. So when I am in that space, let's say, I can actually recall ki, okay, you know what, this is the trajectory, this is how it happens.
Correct.
So it's normal, I'm on the track. So you don't just give up. So those two things I think really work for
I
me.
talk about this in a context in my book also, where I talk about something called a superpower, which I believe each one of us has.
A very important factor in mental peace is that instead of just thinking and thinking internally, you should be able to talk about your frustrations to someone. But sometimes your friends and family can get tired of listening or might not even understand you well. That's why you should talk to a therapist. Your emotions need regular air ventilation. Your thoughts need regular garbage disposal, like once every week with a trained therapist. At Shridhar Life School, we have a team of therapists that you can talk to. Please go to shridharlifeschool.com to book your sessions.
In my book also, where I talk about something called a superpower, which I believe each one of us has. So like for me, my bounce back is that I like the happy space. I naturally come back to that no matter what's going on. It may take longer in some cases, it may be quicker in some, but I get back to that. My superpower in this case, which helps me to do that faster, is when I'm learning something new. So I was so since childhood I've always liked to try different things. So instruments learn kiya, ye kiya, wo. So and every time I do that, I find that it kind of shifts my energy so much that even even during COVID, so I lost my mom a little before COVID. So it was like one of the really bad times. But these 3 years, after my mom's passing, and within 2 months, COVID hit. So, in that entire period, locked up in the house, and I was going through a bad space. We know the tools that came, and I didn't even realize at that time it was a tool I was using. But naturally, instinctively, I started doing like virtually. अगर आप 3 साल में देखो तो मैंने जितने and कोशिश सिर्फ करने के लिए नहीं, actually imbibed, practiced, kind of internalized some parts of that. So जितने कोर्सेज मैंने किए हैं वो शायद पिछले 10 साल में भी नहीं किए होंगे. I've done Spanish and I've done keyboards. I wanted to do music reading for the longest, but I had not done it. So, and I feel if people find the superpower, right, it can be something which helps them come out of their difficult times faster to their equilibrium. It may be different for each. For me, it is learning. But for a lot of people, it can be so many different things. For some people, it's relationships around them. For some, it could be, a hobby they do. For some, it could just be work. What we call
But I would say
workaholics,
even
not
for
such a bad
those
thing.
hobbies and relationships, you still need the original superpower, which is learning. Because
Absolute.
learning is actually
Absolute.
the true superpower. Like that's
Correct.
something, because even to be able to enjoy your friendships and relationships, you have to learn the relationship skills. Otherwise, naturally, sometimes
Correct.
if it does not come to you, you could be miserable. And we see that all the time in our practice,
Yeah.
obviously, that
Absolute.
people are just
Absolute.
miserable in relationships. So you have to learn that
I
too.
think that's because the effort is lacking. People just tend to feel that if there is, the work actually comes after a relationship starts, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, of course. And
people
effort
often
is like
don't,
the
yeah.
starting point, which is ki, okay,
Yes,
at least
yes,
I am prioritizing it now. Ki, okay, this matters to me. I have to do something about it. But now the question
correct.
is what? And for that, you need knowledge. For that, you need real wisdom, real good
Absolutely,
practices.
yeah.
And that's where you go to a coach or read a book or go to a therapist and you learn something.
Correct.
Otherwise, you may figure it out, but it may take a really long time.
Yeah,
So,
likewise for people and their relationship with money. It's
yeah,
the same
exactly.
thing, really.
Same.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's because they can't handle that relationship where, they are not able to retain, and then, it's attributed to so many other things. People think it's other things, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think just like in our space, a resistance to learning, I'm guessing you would find in your space as well, right? People say, oh, हमें पता है क्या करना है. For
Absolutely.
example, like हमें
Absolutely.
like the safe and secure way FD में पैसा डाल दिया या something basically हमने अपना जो भी गवर्नमेंट की जो bonds वगैरह उसमें डाल दिया या गोल्ड में खरीद लिया. Like लोगों के जो typical ways of let's say even saving money है, investment money है. So because I have seen this around myself where people they just don't wanna explore anything new because they're just set in their own ways. So like in what way do you?
Also I find that when it comes to money, right, there are some topics which are very taboo for people. People don't want to talk openly about it. Money is one of those. Those who have too much and those who have too little, both are uncomfortable talking about it. If you observe, it's only the ones in the middle who might talk, if at all. But people are it's a very sensitive issue for people, even those who feel, oh, I don't have enough, I need to do something. And I think another myth that comes in the way is people think, when I have money, when I become rich, I will learn how to manage it. It's the other way around.
It's the other way
If you
around.
learn how to manage it is when you're going to start becoming rich.
So in your
So
management, so right now you are mostly your prime clientele, let's say, is the businesses, right? Like that's what.
yes, it's
Because
a B2B model. Yeah.
so and your work is related to money management or like startup practices or like what exactly?
So what we do is it's the entire business management concept, but we do it more from the context of cash flow management. Because there are a lot of businesses who have value. I mean, we know some of those also, the big guys. There could be value, there could be a good revenue, so the top line is good. There could even be profits in the books. But if cash flow management doesn't match, at the end of the day, founders still feel they are crunched. So although it is an entire business of putting systems and processes in place, if there's somebody in an ideation stage, we actually help them with ideation strategy, creating the MVP. That's like if it's a startup kind of concept. If it's a running business, then rewriting their systems, looking at their teams, retraining, reprofiling them if required. Putting that entire product or service design, the pricing, all of that. But the context of looking at all of this is from the perspective of cash flow. What are we going to do at the end of the day? Because at the end of the day, if you don't have money left to do, I mean, business karte kyun hai? You want a positive cash flow, no? Papers mein profits hone se, ya valuation hone se, ya visibility or publicity hona is, all these are great byproducts. But your main thing has got to be a positive cash flow. And a lot of people struggle with that. So that's the space we come from. But having said that, it's a whole gamut, and you can't really differentiate and say we'll do this and we won't do that. So at the end of the day, we'll end up doing end-to-end everything. So even
And I
things
would
like tax
imagine.
management or compliance, because it's a part of that again. Sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would imagine that there must be people now because they have such examples of big startups of losing money for a decade and then ultimately earning. So they could actually be deluding themselves कि अभी loss हो रहा है, Amazon का भी तो हुआ था, Flipkart का भी तो हुआ था, and not realizing that your core business might not be strong enough, right? So it's how do you realize? Because even for Amazon, Flipkart, ultimately their business was strong enough, but who knows, like those could have failed too, right? Who knows? So
Of
that,
course, I mean,
yeah, so that way, I mean,
see see, if you look at Amazon or Flipkart, okay, Flipkart was modeled on Amazon, so let's
Yeah.
talk of Amazon. If you look at Amazon, they had a model which was on scalability. So they knew what they wanted to build in their value, right? They were not looking at positive cash flows as a value build.
yeah.
They were looking at going into the markets, going into the volumes, making it scalable, and then basically all the accounts that they had, all the installations that they had, their data, their customers was the value that they were trying to build. So they had a metrics which was very clear. They were not looking कि यार positive cash flow होगा. They knew कि ये size का अगर thought process है, so they were looking at you and I and everybody else getting onto Amazon. How much we buy and how much money we give.
Yeah,
them
how
the
many
first
new
5 years
users,
was
how
not
much
the
they're
5 years.
engaging, like how many new user, like वो जो user का जो data engagement का और उसका transaction का जो data है,
हाँ.
if
So
that is
they
increasing,
knew कि अभी इतने बंदे आ गए हैं तो आज and they are putting all those products, that kind of an ecosystem and making it so easy, and it's coming there, and you can even get free shipping, and you can even get it in like 1 day or 2 days. So they built all of those metrics in a way that once you're in, you will not move out completely. आप कभी वहां से लोगे, कभी नहीं भी लोगे, कहीं और से भी लोगे शायद, but you'll rarely find somebody who said I had an Amazon account and I've closed. Why would they? So they
Exactly.
just wanted you to
Yeah.
come and be there in the ecosystem, because they knew that once you are in the ecosystem and you're listening to what they have to say, they were very confident that the model, see, because again their model is such, they are not selling us something where we have to be convinced of the product, right? I want to buy a Samsung phone or an iPhone, I am only using Amazon to buy it. If they give me a good deal, I'm still buying what I would buy. How many of us really do this? I mean, I know so many people who will go out to the nearest store, check out all the prices, and then come back and order on Amazon.
Yeah. अरे
Right, so you have to-
अब तो to be honest,
I mean-
मैं even while walking, like even while shopping, side में phone निकाल के एक बार Amazon पे price check
हाँ,
करते हैं,
check
like
कर
okay,
लेते हैं।
ये अच्छा हो, ये ठीक है. So
So
that
the
happens too.
advantage उन्होंने build किया where one, and see, in a way it's addictive also. I mean, you're home and oh, I have to go tomorrow and do all of this shopping. Hey, let me check on Amazon. यार हो जाता है तो हो जाने दो, So they built somewhere. I mean, you are a person with a psychology background. You'll know that more than me. But I think personally that they also were able to sort of give that hook to a person where you're once into the ecosystem, you're not going to leave.
Yeah. I mean,
Amazon is a very, very special case.
And but even if we leave Amazon, even in the Silicon Valley, let's say, or the startup community, चाहे वो यहाँ पर अब वो हो गया, like now people are just already okay with losing money, because as long as they have like a good grasp on कि मेरे user बढ़ रहे हैं, and like I have higher user retention, and like they are, let's say, using my app over and over, and transactions are increasing, so they can at least convince their investors कि
correct. But the point now is, when Amazon started out, they didn't play the game of value. They built value.
Yes, they started with books.
Nowadays,
actually,
the startups are thinking कि हम Amazon बन सकते हैं, बन जाएंगे. उन्होंने भी ऐसे ही start किया था. They played the game of value. So you're building value on paper, which of course could work, and then you are raking in investments, and that game has become very different. This is not the game that Amazon played,
They
got a few investors, but they started small, and their model was so good. Today we look back, but what did he do when he started out? It was not the kind of model that the startups are doing now. I think basically any size, I don't want to talk about the big guys because they know what they're doing, so that's fine. But if there is anybody who's like in the MSME kind of sector, and or anyone who's individually looking at starting a business, I think starting a lean business with scalability and a great model, working on a good product firstly, because a lot of people start marketing even before their product is ready. So see, I think marketing is extremely important. You've got to be there. People need to know you're there. But प्रोडक्ट में दम नहीं है तो इवेंचुअली एवरीथिंग विल फिज़ल आउट.
देन वो पता चलेगा 6 महीने बाद वो रिव्यूज आ रहे हैं कि दिस कंपनी सक्स, एंड लाइक वो नेवर गो टू दिस कंपनी बिकॉज मार्केटिंग बहुत कर लिया, यू हैड एन अमेजिंग एड, बट व्हेन पीपल एक्चुअली एंजॉयड योर सर्विसेज, सो लाइक, एंड दिस हैपेंस टू ऑल द टाइम. मैंने अभी रिसेंटली आई वाज हमारे बिल्डिंग के अंदर ही एक नया कोई स्टार्टअप आया एंड लाइक बहुत अच्छा सा पोस्टर था एंड दिस इज समथिंग दैट वी नीडेड एज वेल, विच इज यू नीड लाइक अ कुक, राइट? बिकॉज नाउ इस एज में सब काम करते हैं, वी डोंट कुक, वी कांट डोंट हैव टाइम टू कुक एनी मोर. सो देर लाइक दे हैव लाइक अ टीम ऑफ वेरी वेल ट्रेन्ड cooks and you can actually have a trial. So we had a trial with them. And first, second, I think we had it 2 or 3 times, and all those times the experience was actually not so good. And we of course did not go with them. And I realized they are spending so much money on marketing, and this is actually a good right hitting ad, because this made me try them, right?
Yeah.
But then,
but had they spent a little on the product?
On the product, and now, and I'm like now, but I'm not converted. Okay, and I was probably the best customer they could have had, like literally, because I don't find time for cooking and I want good food, and I just wanted a good solution, like a reliable solution. So if they had actually solved the problem, but I mean, I would be their lifelong customer, but I just didn't happen.
No, but this is, it's like if you can build a lean business with, a nicely budgeted kind of viable option.
Yeah.
I think a great team, a good product, most importantly, and then moving to the idea of marketing. I think a combination, is something that could surely work, even if it's not a scalable product, because everybody doesn't want to go into the, the millions bracket. There are some people who are happy with what they do, serve their region. So scalability is still an option. But team and a product and a lean business is not an option, according to me, because that's where your cash flows are going to come from.
Okay. So now that you have like real experience working with startups, so in your, let's say, domain, or whatever you've seen personally, what are kind of the biggest, let's say, absurd mistakes that you see people making, and you're like, you can't say it to their face, and you go back home like, what the hell are they thinking? So like that makes you like, so yeah.
I think one of the biggest that many people make in the beginning is they think too big. Scalability is a great thing, but if you're going to start to think that in 12 months I'm going to capture this market, and you're talking about a big market, what's going to happen is you're planning your team, you're planning your product, you're planning everything around it based on the fact that 12 months ye ho jane wala hai. So you're not lean anymore. Now you're not thinking of ki aaj agar mujhe, I want to just capture this 25 kilometer radius, let me do that first. So I have a team which can take care of that. I look at scalability more as a perspective ki it should be possible to multiply. Not कि मैं सब वो पूरे चीज के लिए अभी लोगों को लेके और systems लेके, because that puts them on a twirl where they are anticipating something which today may or may not happen. Until you see, you have to test the waters, no? आप उतरोगे, you will test the waters, which is when you know, अच्छा ये work होगा, do I need to change something in it? They don't leave space for agility because they do everything now thinking कि ये हो जाएगा. आपको इन्वेस्टर मिला, दैट इज नॉट द एंड रिजल्ट. आपको अगर इन्वेस्टर मिला, दैट इज योर बिगिनिंग. उसको पैसा वापस करना है मल्टीप्लाई करके. That's a concept people are not thinking of often now.
And I think people,
one of the major things is, according to me, thinking too big. Not, the line of reality then gets blurred. It's good to be optimistic, but you have to have.
Yeah, of course, those crazy dreams, they make you get up from your bed in the morning and want to go to work and do really hard shit, but you have to be real. And I think people tend to underestimate the complexity of scaling. So even if you have like an amazing product, let's say your product is figured out, which is in itself so difficult. Let's say product is figured out, they don't realize that scaling requires a lot of people management, hiring talented people, delegating it to them, and ultimately from a product guy you become like a leader, like you become a people's guy. Otherwise you can't scale. And this is not everybody who's like good at it, and you have to learn how to deal with people and how to delegate. And really people who can do the same thing, at least let's say 80-90% of with the same quality that you could do personally, right, as a leader. So ये जो scaling वाला part है, the organizational part is something I guess most people underestimate, कि how difficult that is to really hire and retain good people, right? Because उनके basis.
Then the flip side of this same underestimating is that they try to get the people who will be able to scale right in the beginning. That's also not the time to do it. You first need to get your entire product and your core team to actually create the product you want. that is the point then when you get to that administrative thing where you have to scale is the time where you will get people who can really do the job, and you step up to kind of orchestrate the whole thing. You know, that gets blurred is what, you know, I find.
And any other mistake that you can recall?
Yes, I think one other is, you know, a lot of times the goal that they want, you know, the product, the service, they kind of romanticize it. They fall in love with that product. So they feel my idea is great, my product is great. They are not looking at it from a customer or a consumer perspective at all. So their agility gets completely shut off. So they'll feel like if it is not accepted here or in the MVP stage, this is not working the way I want it to, they don't want to change the product. Now they'll think they're in the wrong market. So instead of, you know, what is controllable, we can't control the markets. We can control our product. We can control, you know, how we can do things. That is where you can be agile. You can't keep switching markets and trying marketing in a new place and think that the same product will work. The feedback has to be taken, no seriously. So that's another thing, you know, because they feel the idea is excellent, and it may be. Some ideas are excellent. The product is excellent and you genuinely feel it should work. It should have worked. But maybe some ideas are before time also. I feel that about our food truck also. Done today,
because I think because it's like when you probably started out, most people do have this passion of seeing a different world with their product, right? With their service. They're like, okay, that's how I'm going to change the world. So they're so attached to it. They're like, okay, this is what I imagine and this is supposed to work. And they don't realize that actually this is what the problem of top down versus bottom up, right? Like if you just keep top down, then ultimately you will come into conflict with the actual world. So that's why you have to be like a good balance of bottom up as well, where you have to mold yourself. And sometimes, like even in my work, let's say I do my videos also, that's what I also had to do. So my core interest was in some topics which were like say interesting for me, which I want people to know. But if I make all my videos on those, nobody will watch them. They'll be very boring, too philosophical, too intellectual, and they'll be like, we don't care about this. Then I have to address topics which actually people need, they want, and probably are more interesting for them. So that's not why I started it, but I have to do it, right? So otherwise,
I think every business needs to do that. You know, honestly, there'll be things you want to do because you want to do. You like doing them. You believe in them. But there will be things that you know your customer or your, you know, prospective consumers are really going to buy, right? Because that at least the balance is required.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, you know, we often talk about it that we would, at some point in time, we're going to get a food truck out again. But that's okay, even if it's just for a kick, you know? Because it's like something, you know, and today we know that it can work better because, you know, but we're
so I mean, what a coincidence here, like it's slightly different, obviously, but so right now I'm a psychologist. But when I started out, in fact, because again, from a business family, so my first work was not this. So at the age of 20, I was, it was 2010, I was 21, right? At that age, we actually had a startup. You know what we started? We started our own whole wheat cookies brand. Okay. So I don't know if you've heard of it, because in cities, actually, it doesn't happen anymore. In smaller towns, there is a practice, आज भी, where तुम घर से अपना आटा, घी, चीनी सब लेके जाते हो. You take all those ingredients and you take it to the baker, and they'll bake cookies for you from your ingredients of your house. So that's still a practice there. So we used to get that made, and वो इतने tasty होते थे that everybody around us, right, like all our relatives, they like the recipe of our town. This is Hanumangarh, Rajasthan. I am originally from Rajasthan, okay? So that was something which was really popular among our community. So we had this idea, like if it's popular in our community, why don't we do it as a business, right? और वो biscuits होते थे 100% आटा घर का. अगर आप दुनिया में कोई भी बिस्किट उठा लो बाजार में जाके, you'll find मैदा होगा ही होगा उसमें, ठीक है? एंड प्लस जो ऑयल्स दे यूज, दे आर मोस्टली हाइड्रोजनेटेड बहुत जगह. तो हमारा ये था घर का आटा एंड देसी घी. सो देसी घी एक्चुअली टर्न्स आउट, डिस्पाइट ऑल द बैड रैप, इट्स एक्चुअली a very good oil. It's actually very good oil. तो प्योर देसी घी के बिस्किट बनाने, एंड कुछ नहीं तो चलो हेल्थ भूल जाओ, एटलीस्ट टेस्ट जो आता है ना देसी घी का, जो प्योर आता है, वंस यू गेट, वो तुम्हें हाइड्रोजनेटेड से आता ही नहीं है. सो वी मेड दैट ब्रांड. बट यहाँ पर फिर हमने पूरा रिसर्च वगैरह किया. रिसर्च तो क्या किया, वी जस्ट फाउंड आउट कि हाउ टू मेक इट हैपन. वी स्टार्टेड दैट इन दिल्ली देन, ओके, इन नोएडा एक्चुअली. पूरा प्लान सेटअप किया एंड आई एम एट 2021 एंड लाइक मेरा ब्रदर साथ में, एंड वी आर डूइंग ऑल ऑफ दैट एंड वी सेट द होल प्लांट अप. एंड सबसे पहले तो जब हमने बना के उसको रेडी किया और जब उसका प्राइसिंग सेट किया, द प्राइसिंग टर्न्स आउट टू बी 200, जो हम जिस पे हमें उससे सेल करना है, इट्स टर्न्स आउट टू बी 250 पर केजी, जबकि दुनिया में बिस्किट्स उस समय 120 पर केजी में मिल रहे हैं. एंड बट दैट डिड नॉट शेक अस अप. वी लाइक नहीं अल्टीमेटली लोग, एंड वी टोल्ड आवरसेल्व्स कि दुनिया में ना लोग क्वालिटी फूड को अप्रिशिएट करते हैं, ठीक है, बिकॉज एक बार, और हमारे एग्जांपल्स हैं कि एक बार क्वालिटी फूड आ जाता है ना तो पीपल कैन पे एनी प्राइस. तो वी आर स्टिल इन दैट मोड कि भाई बेस्ट प्राइस होगा, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. एंड हम ट्राई कर रहे हैं. जैसे रिटेलर के पास जाओ कि यार ये तो बहुत महंगा है, आप छोड़ जाओ कोई बात नहीं, ये छोड़ जाओ कोई बात नहीं. सो एक साल बाद हमें रियलाइज़ हुआ कि ये हमेशा निश मार्केट होगा. वी हैव टू स्टार्ट समथिंग चीपर ऑल्सो. हमने चीपर भी स्टार्ट किया और उसके अंदर भी हमारा एक था कि 100% होल व्हीट. सो द होल थिंग वॉज, हमारा जो कस्टमर्स आ गए थे, एवरीबडी एक्चुअली लव्ड आवर प्रोडक्ट, क्योंकि उस पर वी वर सो, वो हमारा रीज़न था कि कुछ भी हो जाए फूड में हमें वो करना ही नहीं है, बट क्वालिटी में करना ही नहीं है. सो पीपल लव्ड आवर प्रोडक्ट, बट ऑफ कोर्स इट वाज टू एक्सपेंसिव फॉर द मार्केट. एंड हमको उसको चीप करने के लिए ना तो हमारे पास, वी डिड नॉट वांट टू यूज चीपर इंग्रेडिएंट्स, नो डिड वी हैव द स्केल, राइट, टू मेक इट चीपर. सो अल्टीमेटली, और टू बी ऑनेस्ट, सबसे बड़ा हमारा, व्हेन आई लुक बैक आई रियलाइज नाउ कि we had absolutely no experience of marketing, of how actually FMCG industry really works, of how retail industry really works, how brutal it is. But I realized कि we went into that business simply thinking कि अगर product awesome होगा तो it'll just work. And it does not work that way at all. It doesn't. And so आज भी हमको 3-3, 4-4 साल बाद भी कॉल्स आते थे कि यार आपने बंद कर दिया वो, हम आपके रेगुलर कस्टमर से, हम होम डिलीवरी भी करते थे. बट देन लाइक इफ यू आर नॉट मेकिंग मनी तो क्या होगा? 3 साल तक वी लॉस्ट थोड़ा मनी.
That's the thing. Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
actually, yeah, this is something that a lot of businesses feel, you know, कि अपना product quality है. You know, so and of course it's a good idea because, you know, like your product, right? It's a great idea. But sometimes you could be in the wrong time in the wrong place. Sometimes it could just be that your product is, you know, when we talk of price elasticity, so the moment the price goes up, people will stop buying. It's okay. You know, it comes like a luxury product. No, yours, it's a premium product basically. So price बढ़ा तो ठीक है यार, छोड़ देंगे. अगर थोड़ा ज्यादा essential होता तो शायद नहीं छोड़ते. You know, exactly. So many things play a role. So many things. Yeah. But I think the ability to know when to stop is very important. Not everybody has that. I mean, I've seen people borrow, get investors, do all kinds of things and throw money into a business which they know is failing. They are only postponing the shutdown. They can only postpone it. मतलब मालूम है कि सब कुछ, everything is going wrong, but you still have that thing कि नहीं मैंने start किया था, I will make it. It becomes like, you know, as if it's your self-worth is attached.
Self-worth. And I'm sure there is, like, उनके लिए दिमाग में कि like people will call me a failure कि हाँ.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I went through that too. Like when I had to finally decide to shut down, like it's like तुम्हारी identity होती है कि okay, you can do good things and people are kind of looking at it from a distance कि okay, something will happen and you're talking good about your product all this time, but then ultimately I'll shut it down. How will I answer those questions? What will I say to people कि I couldn't do it? So, but yeah,
that has a large role to play. You know, it's like, you know, especially if people have a lot of expectations from you, then that's like a, you know, then you kind of have to deal with it at 2 levels. What your own self-worth in your mind, and then how you're going to take questions and explain it to people.
Yeah,
I think it takes a lot to, in fact, I often feel it takes much more to be able to shut down a business which used to be a dream than to get started.
Yeah, I think the similar is for breakups and divorce.
Oh yes, it is, of course.
Like you realized 3 years into the marriage कि okay, it's not working out, but छोड़ते 10 साल भी लग सकते हैं और हो सकता है कभी ना छोड़ पाओ, है ना? So
I think it is all about, you know, feeling कि मेरा self worth इस पे है, ये खत्म हो गया ना तो
I'm a failure, and that's exactly what happens with divorces also. Like what will I say कि I could not, let's say, keep my partner, like I could not hold a marriage, right? तो I am a failure. So that is actually a big reason. और वो दुनिया की expectation that actually prolongs your misery only. कि भाई और दुनिया को फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा. They are doing their own thing, but तुम उनकी perception के लिए you're just prolonging your own misery. Yeah.
And I can't speak for relationships because that's not my area of expertise. But in businesses, certainly I can tell you that failures are actually great. I mean, if you compare, the trajectory of people who've had failures and then hit success, and with people, whose trajectory is just instant success. Some people get that, right? If you look at that, you'll find a far more interesting trajectory and a far more sort of satisfying learning curve on the prior. Always. They tend to grow as people also, because every failure is going to teach you something if you know what to learn from it.
Even, but yeah, ultimately, I also realized that learning from failure is like a very, very crucial thing. However, you do have to know the right things too, because there is infinitely more ways to fail than the ways to succeed. So it's like, so sometimes, and that's what I realized with this work also. Like, जब मैंने realized कि I actually sat down and wrote कि why did that not work? But then I later realized कि in a new business, I may avoid these mistakes, but that will not still be enough. So I have to actually learn the key things. And so that's like some of them that you also mentioned earlier, ki how the starting point may, you really have to have a great product before you go full out, before you spend too much on marketing. And that what we call product market mix also, product market match or
so basically you need to know your market segment, so you have your product market
fit fit is the word I was looking for. मैं fix बोल रहा था. Fit, product market fit is the term. So by the way, so you mentioned like you're not I actually want to know a bit about your personal life too. So you're married or not right now?
So this is an interesting topic since we just spoke about it. I was for a long period of time, and I also prolonged it pretty much, but currently I'm not. So
Oh, okay. So have you talked about it publicly, or like you have not?
Actually, I haven't really talked about it because I didn't really, sort of ever get asked about it. But I think one of the things that I feel, like in business and like in personal life also, that whenever something has to be shut down or ended, you must do it in the best, cleanest way possible. And that is something I was able to achieve. So for me, I think that comes from a space of, something which ended amicably, because when I look around and I see the kind of mess people make.
Divorces can get like animosity in the process.
And I think both people, of course, need to do that. And I was fortunate enough to have that privilege that, it was a very amicable, very clean, smooth kind of end where you just kind of transform the kind of relationship you have with the person, but it doesn't really need to change the fact that if you thought at one time the person is good, today the person doesn't suddenly become bad. It can be two great people might not get along when it comes to marriage, because that's a very different level of commitment between two people, right? So that is my take on how at least my marriage came to an end.
So it was an arranged marriage, love marriage? Like
it was a love marriage, So there were a lot of similarities also. We really got along really fine on many different levels. But I think we wanted very different things from life. So I think
different goals.
Somewhere along the time, you may have the fondness, you may have the compatibility, families get along great. There wasn't anything, which are typically the problems in Indian marriages. None of those really. All those were ticked off fine. But I think somewhere we realized that what we wanted out of life, the purpose of life in the larger context was very, very different. So it was, one of us would have to sort of look away from what we wanted if we had to make that work. And I don't think that would have been fair to either. So,
That's actually, so even in our relationship work, this is something that, like in research, sometimes they call it shared dreams or shared values. So, usme kya hai? Like the life that you see together, it's like, you have your own meaning in life, what you want to do, and then your partner has their own. And if there is too much gap in those, then the conflicts or the resistance or friction will be too high, because वो larger dreams से तुम्हारे day-to-day decisions build होते हैं, right? Like what you do on a day-to-day basis, who do you meet, how do you spend your time, and what do you prioritize? And अगर वो जो larger में difference है, so let's say अगर एक का है कि मुझे सिर्फ अपना शांति से घर पे रहना है, friends के साथ जाना है, दूसरा, the another one is very ambitious. So they'll say कि भाई work on something, like we can't just chill every day. We have to work also. We have to be serious about things. And somebody says, no, 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 this is how I want to live my life. So they will have a conflict every day because their design of life or their aspirations from life are so different.
Yeah. And I think if I run it parallelly, exactly what happened, with the food truck bit happened in my marriage also. I started out too early. So, it's like I did not perhaps, I was not in my own life, I was not at a point to be able to see clearly, okay, how does this fit into the larger scheme of things in my life? That's what happened with the business that I started because I was just 21, and that's what happened also with, this kind of a thing. So I think because I started, going out really early. So that entire period, it's like then you're like, okay, you're already into it and you're not stepping back and thinking. So it was like, ये चल रहा है वो चल रहा है हाँ सब ठीक चल रहा है अच्छा चल रहा है that there was no reason to think. Then fast forward a few years and then you realize that no, I am coming into my own now, and today I know that I should have done something differently. But like I say, like in business, so in marriage or any other personal relationship, I think that if two people are on the same wavelength, at least for retaining the kind of mutual respect where कि आगे बढ़ना है या नहीं बढ़ना है, in both cases, if you can give that mutual respect to each other, have a civil conversation, not make
that's a big one. That's another big one.
That's a very, very big
whenever there is differences, how are they resolved? Like, and how do you talk in those manner? Like, how respectful are you? And ultimately, are your conflicts getting built up or getting resolved? Because that really marks a trajectory. Like, if they are, because so many times, if people, let's say, okay, you do your own thing, I do my own thing, and gradually you keep accepting, then sometimes, even with differences, it's not the ideal life, but you still get by. But let's say if you have an active issue with something that the other person is doing and you can't accept it, let's say, then it probably will, the negativity will keep like occurring, right? Like every other day, they'll have an issue with it and you just can't, really feel it's, I can relax or just be myself. Or
I think it needs a lot of, maturity, and it needs the ability time and again to step away from just your, so emotional thing of, a lot of people, I feel like when I look around, I know a couple of friends or, in the circles who are having such, such bad contested matters going on and, stuff like that. And I just feel, I think the one thing that's missing is we stop seeing at a point, why did I get into this in the first place? Why did I start? So there were certain things that were good that I saw. Now, there may be certain other things that come up now, but the way I didn't see it, probably the other person didn't see it either. I mean, I understand it could be very different if there are matters like, abuse or other things. I mean, they're obviously, I don't think people can take this view. But if it's a regular, set of conflicts that people do have, then there isn't, a reason to sort of prolong it or cause so much more misery to yourself and the other, right? I mean, it needs a little bit of maturity, I think, and a way to be able to step back from your emotions and say, okay, look, whatever it is, for now, in communication, you can't bring in your emotions every single time, especially when you decide you want to do this amicably and, sort of leave it behind you, I think.
So in your life now, as for future, are you open to a relationship again, or like, is it like done for you? Like, what is
I am just, I'm just kind of letting it be for now. I don't believe in the concept of never. So I don't want to.
It happens. If it happens, it happens.
If it happens, it happens. Yeah.
And like, did you have any kids in the marriage, or like you?
No.
Achha.
We kind of, I mean, thank God for that.
And is that also?
I think that's another thing
that made it easier, probably.
Prolonging, yeah. Sometimes people remain just because of that also. So,
And so kids are also like, is something that are on the cards or not, like for you in the future?
Not really. Not really.
Because this is something that I also keep talking about it because I actually recently made a video like, should you have a child or not? That was because I saw in my generation, especially like in my friends and in the millennials, more and more people are choosing to not have kids now. And,
yes.
Yeah.
If I could just intervene.
Yeah.
So, one of the favorite things that I say, so I have a very large close-knit family and I have a lot of friends who have kids in like different age groups. I have nieces and nephews. In all of my cousins, I'm the youngest. So my nieces and nephews are like, not very far apart from my age, maybe a decade younger kind of stuff, closer to my. And I always say, the best part about not having kids and still loving kids is like, किसी और का बच्चा है ना, I can keep them with me until I'm okay. Then ho gaya, so then I can just send them home. You can't do that when you have your own kids. It's like so that's my favorite line. I have a wonderful relationship with my nieces and nephews, and I think whenever I feel कि यार बच्चा चाहिए क्या, तो उतना मेरे लिए ठीक है. Otherwise, I don't think I was, like a 24/7. And this is another very, very, I don't know, it's a very, I don't know whether I should say what word to use here. I'll leave that to you. But, I find that a lot of people think that a woman not wanting to, really
have kids or
have kids or, raising a child. Somehow I've heard so many times that, if a woman is not a woman until she doesn't become a mother kind of thing.
उसके उनके रोल्स का पार्ट आ जाता है.
Assume ही करते हैं कि अरे कुछ इशू होगा या मतलब ऐसे. So it's a very, that's another thing. It's like how people say entitled. It's like that. Myths it's a societal myth, and then people are just going to have their judgment on it. So I think that's a slightly people don't even ask. I'm glad you asked actually.
yeah, because I think even kids के साथ वो एक traditionally normalcy का जुड़ा हुआ है ना. This is the normal course of life. जिसके अंदर it's like a very लोगों के लिए significant milestone है. Like you have a kid, and then so if somebody chooses not to have that, then they're like, okay, you're not living normal life. Like what is happening here? So people can't take it. And इसमें just to because when I studied about it, like I actually researched this topic कि people who don't have kids versus people who have kids, क्या long term differences हैं, like, and मैं अपना I even gave my own verdict in this. See, one interesting thing that I learned was that in the long run, if you look at the actual well-being and happiness of people with kids and without kids, there is virtually no difference there. So if you're so people who have kids out of fear that, okay, my life will be terrible without it, they're actually mistaken, or like the fear has been induced by people around them. And people who think that kids will fix everything, that's also not true, right? So this is why that's in the long-term happiness, it does not matter that much. However, one thing which I do understand is that in the long run, what as humans we want is richness or diversity of experiences. Like that's one of the things that we cherish, right? So from that angle, let's say somebody who's really good at career. So career is something that you can do for years and years. So from that point of view, like, okay, to have that experience of parenthood is just like another experience that you can add to your, but then again, it's not a necessary one. It's like I compared it to traveling. Is it necessary to travel? It's not. But if you do, like, you can have a little bit of diversity in your life.
Yeah, but here, this is one thing I would like to intervene. Like I have like I just mentioned about nieces and nephews, right? So when you talk of that instinct, of wanting to see what is it about parenting really, other than the societal thing where you want to, carry your family forward and all, let's leave that apart. But otherwise, what is it at an emotional level? It's like somebody who looks up to you, whom you have a relationship with, whom you can be a guide for, whom you can nurture, whom you can raise, whom you can be a part of their, growth or upbringing, or, giving them a certain level of values. But you don't need to necessarily be a parent.
Yeah, that's actually...
You can have that experience in the measures that you like.
So that's to some degree, yes. Some proportion of or some chunk of that experience you can actually have, and uske liye bhi, like, you have to have skills to maintain relationships with your siblings and their children because otherwise wo bhi, they will not be interested in hanging out with you. But the fact that you've managed that, so yes, you can have some of that experience, so it's like a good substitute for that, probably the best substitute for that. But of course it will not make up for the whole thing, क्योंकि actual parenting में दोनों चीजें higher होगी कि तुम्हारा responsibility भी much ज़्यादा होगा, but then वो attachment जो तुम feel करोगे because it's your own child, वो भी बहुत ज़्यादा होगा. So वो दोनों चीज, so वो cost भी बढ़ेगा, benefit भी बढ़ेगा. So you have to see कि मतलब मुझे किस level तक उसको
I feel absolutely, but I feel, Shridhar, at the end of the day, when we talk of whether kids or marriage or people who choose and want to stay single or people who might have different choices, in all of those cases, it's like at one point in time, if you look back, you can always feel कि यार, पर I chose this. अगर ये चूज नहीं किया होता तो मेरा लाइफ वैसे भी हो सकता था, no matter what you choose, you will feel that, today, like a couple of days back, I just spent some time with a friend whom we were in school together, so we've known each other since the time before. And her life trajectory has been very different from mine. Conventionally, got married early, 2 kids. Now the kids are grown up almost, that trajectory. And when we talk, we find that neither of us really knows how it would have been if we were in the other's shoes. So she's had a life. Maybe it looks, perfect to a lot of people. Maybe she also feels it's perfect. But there are times when she would feel, oh, but what if I was there? She has shared that. I may feel at times, okay, I chose everything very unconventionally. But what if I had chosen that? How different would my life be? Would I be happier or less happier? I don't know. We have one life and we make choices, and it's going to build a trajectory. We can look back and say, oh, at every step here, I could have done it that way.
Yeah,
but
of
I don't
course,
know
of course.
whether that could have taken me where, so yeah.
For sure. And this is how life is. We will all have very, very unique journeys, and hopefully we can gather more and more, let's say, the kind of implicit goal that we all have is maximizing the positive experiences, minimizing the negative ones. But वो positive कहाँ से आ रहे हैं, उसमें बहुत diversity है. There is no one way कि भाई सिर्फ music से ही मजा आ रहा है, कि सिर्फ chocolate खाने से मजा आ रहा है, कि तुम्हें सिर्फ relationship. So उसमें there is a lot of diversity, and people will have their own unique set of experiences which will give them happiness. So and we have
and there
to
also you need to be agile, because what you want at 30, what you want at 35,
Exactly.
what you want at 25 is going to change.
Exactly.
So, as you move and evolve, those things, that mix also will keep changing.
Yeah, that for sure. Like हर life के stance में तुम्हारा need और तुम्हारे comparisons और तुम्हारा desires actually, और because desires के साथ ये भी ना, once you fulfill a desire, उसका intensity भी तो कम होता है. Then you want something else also. Then you want something different also.
Absolutely.
So this can happen even with work also, right? Like तुम अपने work में बहुत वो थे, but अब 20 साल काम कर लिया, सब देख लिया. Then you're like, okay, what else? Like अब कुछ और चाहिए. So
हाँ, कुछ और तो that is, I think that's I think a part of it, right?
Part of it, right.
The journey never kind of really ends until it ends. So
yeah. So yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks for sharing the personal part too, because I really love to know about this, because that's my work too, like how people our work is around that. But of course, great insights for book also, from your work also. So just before we kind of go, I want to know about the book. So when did you release it?
It got launched now on 20th of October. It went across all the platforms.
Okay.
Sort of 23rd October onwards, because it was Dhanteras. So we were, the topic is money. So we wanted to sort of, 23rd is when it actually went on all global platforms.
So you're doing the old school trending part, कि जैसे आजकल Twitter का ये trend हो रहा है, तो अभी धनतेरस पे trending होगा. So money, that's nicely done. So could you just tell us the name of the book again? And actually I'll add the link to the description.
Left, what's right.
What's left, what's right.
Money, what's left, what's right. So we talk about both sides of the brain, right? The mindset work and the actual practical tips to build your personal money management plan. So 2 components of the book. Yeah.
Okay, so your mom and dad wala jo left and right jo tha.
Right.
All right, great. So abhi it's available on all digital platforms also, right?
All digital platforms.
All digital platforms.
Yes,
Okay. So we'll add those links in the description also, and so
we could do that. We also have on our website, we have a particular page which gives you the integrated links to wherever you can buy it.
Yeah, I'll actually Then in that case, I'll just add your website's link on my description. That's better, so that people will have the.
So they'll be able to wherever they are. So all the global links are there.
That's great. So anything before you go, like you want to say to us or say to the audience, anything on your mind?
Oh, well, I don't really have any message to give. I think the book says it all. But so I just think, I have a vision of financial education for all. And the book is a small step in that, because that's what we do in business also. And I'm desirous of doing, a few free workshops where people can come and, interact and sort of find a way out of some of these issues, because I don't want to talk too much about this because it's all in the book. But I explore a lot about how our, stories and beliefs and emotions and some trauma around money when we were being raised can be playing a role without us even realizing it. And I share a lot of insights and anecdotes from people I've worked with also. Because along with doing the business transformation, which is a B2B space, personally, I'm also a financial freedom coach, which is more like for individuals, right? So in that process, we realize that a lot of times the floodgates are just waiting to open, and what's holding them back is some, like in a case, there could be a childhood memory where somebody lost a parent, really early. And then every time something good comes in their life, they feel they shouldn't be getting it because the parent did.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
that's also
It's a
our
very
territory. So,
big, intense thing. It's your area, so you know what we're talking about. Of course, I talk about it in the context of
No, of course,
more,
I mean,
money, success, growth. But yeah, that percolates everywhere. You know more than that, more than me on that.
So are you doing any workshops right now, or like you're planning to start?
So we have something lined up for November and December where we're doing one, like an Ask Me Anything kind of free, open to all workshop.
It's online, Abhi?
And we're doing, it's going to be online, and it's free, but we need a prior registration because it's going to be a closed meeting sort of setup. And end of November, we're also doing releasing your emotions to live a more abundant life. So that's another workshop we're doing end of November. Virtual again, prior registration needed again. So we're not doing this on like going live kind of platforms because if there's no interaction, it doesn't work that well. So there'll be closed meetings only. But but it is going to be open to all. So these. And then Jan onwards, we have some plans of doing actual in-person workshops with people, which are going to be more around the entire financial freedom concept, like a short stay kind of a thing, like a retreat where we will be.
But this will be in Mumbai, right?
From Mumbai, it's about 4 days. Sorry?
This will be in Mumbai, yeah?
No, I'm from Mumbai, but the retreat will be in a place which is like, we want something which is more hills or water or something.
Okay.
Mumbai, we don't have, so we'll probably be doing it either in Goa or any other place in Maharashtra which has that kind of vibe. So that's what we're looking at right now.
All right. Sounds great. Sounds exciting. Kabhi, like if I get an opportunity, I'll also join those retreats.
Absolutely. You can even we can even collaborate if you could do a session with them because important, right? That's so important.
Yeah.
You could, because I talk about this, that you could have all the, when you talk of financial freedom, you can't look at it only from a money perspective, right? It's about having the money you want with the people you want, doing things you want with great health. That whole combination is important.
Of course.
So you can't be truly.
And that's partly why I always, like, whenever I bring somebody, like I'm talking to you, I used talk about some other aspects too, because again, मेरा भी approach वो balance वाला ही है. Like life में you need multiple things going right, or like talk about multiple things to have like a decent life. So yeah. All right. So thanks for coming. It was actually great talking to you. I learned a lot about you.
It was lovely. It was lovely talking to you.
Yeah. So, and I hope people will like it too. So guys, do check out her website. And like if you are around and if you can manage, do attend her workshops as well. And because there's a lot more than what you saw here. This was the tip of the iceberg. So go experience the iceberg too. Chalo. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Bye.